Okay. Good morning, everyone. Was there any task given yesterday? Day before? Did you do it? Ready? I'll be asking questions. Which one? Geography. Geography facts. Did you recollect the facts from NCRTs? Sure? Let's see after the end of the class. Anyway, first task. Map this article just by reading the heading. Where will you place it? What are the different parts of the syllabus of both prelims and mains where you can place this? Okay, let's talk for mains. GS 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't want to give you a direct answer. This article is mapped to this part of the syllabus. We have been doing this for almost 15-20 days now. I want you to try. Society. What aspect of society? Society describes structural problems of a society. In that Indian society syllabus, it will talk about the problems. Okay. Next. Let's go paper wise. GS2 governance. Is there a possibility of a rights based approach when we deal with women? What are the two approaches for governance? Yesterday we spoke about rights based, other is like a policy measure without a right. What do you mean by a right? Right. Claims. Keywords. You have to focus on the keywords. NCRT 11th class political theory. In that chapter number 2, probably 2 or 3. I don't remember exactly, but look at the chapter index. You have to have that definitional clarity. Okay. Are there any other aspects of the syllabus? GS2 is governance, vulnerable sections. What else? GS3, poverty and hunger issues. GS4, ethics is a very broad term. What aspect of ethics? Attitude. Now today, the first task that I am asking you for today, no matter which classes you have, go and by heart your entire syllabus in the same order. Do it every day before the newspaper class. I don't want you to sit in a class without knowing your syllabus. Is there any other topic? Poverty and hunger issues. If you don't know to which topic you can map an article, for which exam are you preparing? You should know your boundary. Right? If you're not even prepared to handle the syllabus, or at least not even handle, at least know the syllabus, how will you prepare for this exam? Don't you think it's wrong that you are expecting even syllabus to be spoon fed? Have syllabus on your fingertips. It's been like how many months since you are starting these classes? Like how many months? 6 months? 3 months. Not less than 1 month, right? Even after 1 month, you did not bother checking the syllabus, by hearting the syllabus. That's wrong. Activity number 1 for today, by heart entire syllabus in the same order, both for prelims and mains. Take a look at the notification. Okay. So let's see. Here there is a statistic given. Despite serving over 300 million people, through food grain schemes, take a look at the statistics. 57% of the women remain anemic. What do you mean by anemia? Iron deficiency. Why is it a big issue in women? Because it will lead to a weak child for next generation also. Overall, the health of the women itself will deteriorate. Poshan Abhiyan cannot succeed without integrating women's empowerment. Yesterday we spoke about the concept of empowerment, and here we spoke about Amartya Sen. So today's class will be very short and crisp. I'm not going to extend it beyond the time it requires, because not many articles of final exam relevance are there in today's news. Okay. So tell me, what do you mean by empowerment? Sorry? Yesterday we spoke about empowerment. What is the meaning of empowerment? Capabilities, exactly. We need a ecosystem or a governance approach which will actually give women, in this case, the ability, the agency. These are the words: capability, agency. You have to use keywords like this in your answer. Give women the agency to take their own decisions, to explore their potential. Let's say you believe you can get a rank in this exam, and you do not get enough support. Support as in, let's say, if there is a bias, I don't think you'll get a rank, don't waste your time. Everyone around you are speaking in a negative way. Or there is a bias that, you come from a very not so rich background, only rich people will get it. That's a bias. Is there a fact like that? Or you come from a rural background, you can never crack this exam. You should be in a very tier 1 city, you should be aware of the world, you should read everything under the sun, only then you will crack the exam. All these are assumptions. Marvel. All these are assumptions, right? When you want to get rid of assumptions like this, it takes a huge effort. And state at the when state is having that superiority or a sovereignty, it is the responsibility of the state to eliminate these biases. Correct? So we are talking about an important issue of attitude. We will be beginning this article from that issue of attitude. What do you mean by attitude? You will be learning in ethics classes, but I'm briefly introducing. You know what is attitude? You must have heard this term attitude. I want you to start giving me an answer from whatever you know. What is an attitude? The way you think and behave, or the perception you have towards something. Let's say you have a attitude that women should only be at home and take care of household work. It's a attitude. It is showing your attitude, your predisposition to act in a certain way. How did that attitude form, etc., is a subject that can be dealt in ethics. It can be shaped by your surroundings, it can be shaped by your education, family, and the upbringing, the exposure you have had continuously from childhood till your your mental makeup is evolved, and through that lens you look at the world. So this is predominantly about attitude than anything else. In this lecture today, we are not just looking at a mere scheme of the government or a generic suggestion for GS2 and governance, saying that we have to improve our governance systems and then the outcomes will get better. No matter how many schemes you bring. We spoke about the same thing when we were discussing about waste management, Swachh Bharat mission. We were talking about that governance issue, right? In that Swachh Bharat mission, we spoke about the attitude of people. If people don't support, if they don't cooperate, if they themselves are not putting that waste and litter in the dustbin, there's very little that the governments can do. It's a two-way communication, right? Between an individual and the state will do its job. It is a duty of the individuals and the citizens. They should also contribute to this. So we are attacking that root cause in today's article, because we are going to talk about a scheme. By the word portion, you can figure out that it is something that has got to do with nutrition. The problem today, like we are discussing with this statistic, 57% of the women. We will talk about the source of this statistic because it is important to quote in the answers again. But look at the problem statement. We are giving money for a problem that is meant to be solved. Despite giving money, despite having programs, we are yet seeing a problem. There's something wrong in the policy design which we are not addressing. And this article tries to say that we have to fix that problem. Let's see what that is. You have to first realize that malnourishment. What do you mean by malnourishment or malnutrition? Lack of nutrition. What is the difference between food and nutrition? Food and nutrition. Food security, nutritional security. What is the difference? Providing food is? Okay. What is nutrition security? Exactly. Our body requires certain macro and micronutrients. You need vitamins, minerals, you need fats, carbohydrates, protein. Fat, carbohydrate, protein is macro. The micronutrients include many elements, vitamins, etc. All of them together form a part of our body's nutritional requirements. Okay. The generic advice is that you have to have macronutrients in the ratio of 40% of carbohydrate, 40% of protein and 30% of fats. How many of you think you are taking adequate fats and protein? Our diets are predominantly about carbs. You wake up in the morning, you eat. What did you have for breakfast? Nothing yet. Okay, what will you have for breakfast? Dosa, idli, puri, vada. Do you think you have carbs in that? Yes. Do you have protein in that? No, right? So, it's a choice. Why are we not having protein? Because access to protein is a bit expensive. So we need to move away from food security towards nutritional security. Let's say the schemes, ICDS, portion, etc. are ensuring that also. But there is an underlying problem which is beyond biology, and that is it is a social outcome influenced by multiple factors. This is the premise of this entire article. Even if you give them the food they need, let's say they're giving boiled egg to women, do you think they will be consuming it without ensuring that someone at home is well fed? No, right? So it is important to ensure nutrition for everyone. Power dynamics. This is the second angle that we are supposed to talk. Intra-household decision making affects who eats what. Poor women and girls often eat last and least. It's a social observation. Do I need to explain this? Next up, economic agency. Access and control over resources determines nutritional choices. If they don't have the decision making power, do you think they'll be able to access this food? No. So these are the factors. I want you to draw a triangle and note this properly. Root cause of malnourishment. This can act as a template for poverty and hunger issues. Please take this note seriously. Draw a triangle and write these three things down. Presentation is equally important. Power dynamics, economic agency, and beyond biology. Next up, what are the current nutritional programs? See, this is prelims level info. Or you can even get this in mains in the form of questions like what are the present policy initiatives by the government of India to deal with malnourishment. You can use this template of a timeline to present your answer. Look at it, how it is neatly structured, right? This is how you can present your answer. Left hand and right hand, draw a line in the middle. You can write this down. Do you have this word in your syllabus? Yes or no? GS3. Please note this down. Why am I asking you to write this? Why don't you just download? Is there a reason why I'm asking you to do this? What can be the reason? There is something called kinesthetic memory. When you write something down in your own handwriting, it helps you recollect. Writing is the best way to learn. No matter how much you by heart, unless and until you write, you will not be able to recollect. Before you copy everything down, I just want you to read it. PDS, ICDS, midday meal, portion. Write without seeing. Read it now itself, write without seeing. Okay. What is the missing link despite the availability of programs? I already spoke about it. Decision making gap and economic disparities. If women do not have the agency, what do you mean by this word agency? Agency means, in simple words, in this context, it means the ability to take that decision, the control over that situation to take that decision. How can I say that we don't have a decision, women do not have a decision making ability or agency to take decisions? It should be driven by data. Here, there is something called National Family Health Survey 5. So here is another homework. Search what is this NFHS round 5. All the health related data is found in NFHS 5. Okay, so this is where you will get your data for society and governance, welfare issues, governance issues to support your argument. So the same NFHS round 5, National Family Health Survey round 5, says that 49% of the women lack authority over their earnings. It is not my opinion. It is not your opinion. The government report says that. So this shows, if you can quote your answers, in your answers, sources like this, it shows an authority over data driven governance. You are trying to advocate data driven governance. The objective in this class is first understanding the problem, and the problem is derived from a source, so you need to argue with the data. You are not learning just an issue for the sake of that issue. You are learning how to structure your answer, how to structure an argument. What is the proposition you've had? Women lack agency. Show me the proof. This is the proof. Now tell me the consequence. Even with sufficient food supply, women often cannot decide what they want to eat. Premise, fact, consequence. Intro, body, conclusion. This is how you have to structure your arguments, right? Premise, fact, conclusion. Take a look at this. Only 20% of women hold salaried jobs. Is this an opinion or a fact? Facts should always be there in your notes. So, most work in insecure informal sectors. What do you mean by insecure informal sector? Can anyone guess? No legal contract. Excellent. Why do you need a legal contract? What is job security? Let's say your employer takes work from you, and at the end of the period for the contract, the employer says, I don't want to give you salary. There is no written agreement. What will you do? Nothing. When you say salaried jobs, the data itself indicates that if we say only 20% of women are in salaried jobs, it doesn't mean that all the women who are working do not fall into the formal sector. There are many more people who work elsewhere. Let's say, for example, housemaid. Do you think she'll have any social security? So it's a problem. Formal, informal, the legal recognition will ensure some social security, pension, provident fund, insurance, labor laws. All of this apply only to the formal sector. Indian economy, almost 89 to 90%, let's say numbers vary, 85 to 90%. It is informal in nature, and it is all the more prevalent in jobs for women. Most of them are informal jobs. So there are two arguments that you can use to support. One, is the social bias, 2 is the economic bias. Social bias through NFHS data and economic bias through this economic data, various surveys. Okay, so you can also use periodic labor force, PL. Anyone? Yesterday, if you are going through the newspaper, did you go through the newspaper? We will discuss this soon. I'm picking up articles which will give you an intro to the broad syllabus. I'm not getting into the minute level details, technical level details yet from newspaper articles. First, let's establish the broad issues of the syllabus. Then we'll come to the basic details. So there is a recent news, PLFS, Periodic Labor Force Survey. Previously, it was not done monthly. Now you will have every month data update of what is the situation of employment, unemployment in our country through a government survey. The modalities, the facts of that whole issue we will discuss in some other class. But what I'm saying is, you will have data sources like this to quote in your answers. Now, there are some theoretical concepts that I want you to know. First is the Amartya Sen's capability approach. In yesterday's class, we have discussed what is Amartya Sen's capability approach. When welfare is driven by an agenda of improving the capabilities of people, if you have a potential but you do not have the capability, or something is naturally there, the zeal is there, but you do not have the resources to achieve that objective, it is the responsibility of the state. We have seen how disability as a paradigm shift yesterday has been transformed from an issue of biology to an issue of society through a rights-based approach for welfare. So when you rewire the thinking, the approach, the responsibility of the state will be seen in a new light. That is what we are saying through capability approach. Then there is a economist and a partly we can say a sociologist. So basically this person is a Nobel laureate, economist basically. So they observed that when the women So, this Nobel laureate found that empowered women spend more on health and food for their families. What is the inherent observation or inherent bias that they do not, if food is given to them, they will anyway take it back to the family and they won't eat it. Instead of doing that, why not empower them so that they will take care of the families? The approach should not be like, unless and until the state gives, women can't eat. Instead, address the root problem. Whatever is stopping her from taking a job, exploring her potential, address that. She herself will take care of the family. This is what the research shows. Next thing is, established research on governance. There is a structural problem. What do you mean by structural problem? What do you mean by structural problem? See, if there is a building, you say there is a structural problem in the building. What will be its impact? It will malfunction or collapse. Whenever there is a problem within the design, either it will lead to suboptimal utilization or misutilization or complete collapse of the system. Any issue which can lead to these consequences is a structural issue. When you are dealing with women and the policy measures therein, you cannot have a structural issue which does not address the attitude towards women. The policy should always have space for the realities on the ground. The reality is that women are not treated on par with men in a lot of areas in this country even today. We need to address that. That structural problem has multiple consequences, because if women are not healthy, it will lead to a vicious cycle where the next generation kids are also born weak, and that will get multiplied if it is a girl child, because biologically women need different care, especially after their adolescence, after puberty. They need much more, let's say for example folic acid supplementation, etc., because of their biology, inherent biology. And if adequate care is not given to them, it will lead to a intergenerational trauma, and that vicious cycle can only be broken through policy design. That structural issue can only be addressed by going back to Amartya Sen's capability theory. I'm not saying that is the only theory that will work, but it's a theory that can be used as a directional compass to design policies. Why are we saying this? What are the limitations of our current approach? Let us look at the limitations. Firstly, we are just focusing on food supply. Merely giving food is not enough, right? We have to ensure who gets access to that food. See, the updated schemes are all good. We also have fortification. What do you mean by fortification? Any idea? Improving nutritional values. How? By biotechnology, for example. If you have fortified rice, wherein by consuming the same amount of rice, you are getting more zinc, more carotene, more protein. Recently, there is a new variety of rice that was launched, where you've had more protein content. Or if the crop is made drought resistant, as a consequence you are getting better quality of rice, yield, etc. That is a part of biotechnology. But if biotechnology is used for improving nutritional outcomes, that is fortification. Science is not going to decide attitudes. Human beings are going to decide attitudes. So we need a structural change in the policy design. Right now it's not working because of the inherent bias. Growth monitoring measures outcome without addressing the root causes of malnourishment. What is the root cause? Bias. Community outreach. You have campaigns like Jan Andolan. Jan Andolan means you have seen, let's say for example, during COVID lockdown, the first COVID lockdown, our Prime Minister appealed to various sections of the country, the population, to stay united, and we have called for a public support to support the lockdown, because we are yet to figure out how to escape this situation. At that point of time, lockdown was a solution, right? And we required people to come together. So usually when it comes to community resources, where there is a joint ownership, for example water does not belong to any one individual. It's a community ownership based resource. For mobilizing such resources, we need people to come together. Jan Andolan is a concept that is used predominantly in dealing with resource management. And that same philosophy is also deployed when you are dealing with women. But if that Jan Andolan is not yielding an outcome, there is a inherent bias that is not fixed yet. We need to fix that. So we are arguing the same point. See, all this are arguments of the same point. So the same question can be asked in a different way. I'll say, what is the implication? What will happen because of bias against women? This is the answer. So in mains, you can get an answer in this direction or in this direction. They can say what are the limitations of the current approach or what are the implications of the biases. Same answer for both. The way you present will change. Finally, economic agency, we have seen how almost 20%, NFH is around 5. What is the number? 49, yeah. 49% of the women do not have economic agency. Correct? This is how we have to present an argument. Now, what is the solution? You have to know that employment is not enough. You have to give them decision making authority and present them multiple nutritional choices. That will lead to better health outcomes. Pretty straightforward. Now, how to do it? How should we converge nutrition into decision making ability and social change? Policy measures, governance for social change. It's the responsibility of the state to change behavior. So let's go back to the concept of constitutionalism. Okay. Let's go back to this concept of constitutionalism. What do you mean by constitutionalism? What do you mean by constitutionalism? Limiting the powers of the government. Now, what is the role of judiciary in enforcing constitutionalism? Exactly. So there is a constitutional philosophy, and judiciary being the upholder of rights. If something is wrong, the direction is wrong, judiciary takes up that issue and says and suggests the government that you should probably shift your direction because this is against the philosophy of the constitution. When you have right to equality, when you say that there should not be any discrimination based on race, religion, caste, sex and place of birth. Take the word here, this is a biological concept. Gender is a sociological concept. When you are given a certain role, let's say in division of labor, traditional societies, the responsibility or the role of taking care of home was given to women. Societies evolved, the roles did not. So the biases cannot continue. And it is the role of judiciary to enforce a restriction on bad policies that will continue the same bias. So there is a present phase of philosophy of judiciary, of Supreme Court in dealing with individual rights, and that philosophy is called transformative constitutionalism. Transformative constitutionalism. Okay. So this philosophy talks about how we have to reinterpret the principles of constitution pose limitations on the government if there is inaction on existing biases, or the policy design itself is flawed. So you can use this word transformative constitutionalism as a philosophy of the Supreme Court in trying to impose restrictions on any policies that will perpetuate or continue the same biases. Okay. So how do we make sure that women have the agency and the capability to take their own decisions? Integrate the scheme with their livelihood. If they earn more, they will get a decision making ability. Okay. And this should be within the framework of our society. It should not be like we should create women where they are trained and brainwashed to hate this society. That's not empowerment. Understand the role of family. We want as a state to nurture a family where both the partners are treated equally in their decision making ability. That should ideally be the role of the state, because family as a unit will take care of itself. It should not become the responsibility of the state. State should not intervene in many areas. It would not want to intervene. Micromanagement is difficult for the state also, right? So whatever keeps the continuity of the values, family as a unit will be the smallest unit where it will take care of itself. So empower women to reduce that conflict and ensure that the outcomes are reached. So we need to integrate it with their livelihood missions. There is something called NRLM. This is a scheme that we can discuss some other time. In short, this is a livelihood scheme where self-help groups are created, meaning a group of people come together, money is given to them, they will produce something out of it, make some profit, pay back the loan, and that will give them economic empowerment. As simple as this. We will get into the details of the scheme probably in some other class, but this is the overall philosophy. So if we can integrate this nutritional aspect to the livelihood aspect, we can see a positive change. That is what the author believes. Integrated service delivery. So you should ensure that nutrition and livelihood work together, and then we have to gather collective groups like self-help groups. Dwakra, for example, in Andhra Pradesh is a good example. Microfinancing is a good concept. In 2006, Muhammad Yunus, the present Bangladesh acting head of the state, he was given a Nobel laureate because he carried out a small program on microfinancing and the whole concept of this self-help groups. When you give money, access to money to a small set of women, they empowered themselves by carrying out some economic activities, and that gained some social traction. It gave them some power. That model has been replicated in a lot of underdeveloped and developing countries. Even in India, we have kind of adopted that as a policy design. You can read about that. There is something called Grameen Bank. Read about that. Muhammad Yunus 2006. Okay. So we have to go for gender-based targeting, where intra-household food distribution, directly within the house, what percentage of the food is directed towards women. We need to have a metric for that. If you understand the inherent biases, we can design a policy measure for addressing that will specifically address women's needs, and then monitor the gender sensitive indicators. based on those indicators. For example, a survey will have some metrics. Just like how you take prelim scores as a metric of your progress in your mock test, you need to have certain metrics, some numbers. We have to create those indicators by a thorough sociological analysis and target to fill the gap on those indicators. Okay, that's what this article suggests. Apart from this, you can also have many ideas which can be implemented where let's say you have kitchen gardens and community kitchens where women are made participants. It can be possible that a collective of women come together, maybe their nutritional outcomes become important, much better, because they don't feel guilty for having eaten without their family members. And if they are made participants in production of food, kitchen gardens, community kitchens, where the priority is on women empowerment. This is women empowerment and their choices and their consumption overall. So we need to focus on initiatives like this also. This is also one more important. In the West, especially in many Scandinavian countries. Where is Scandinavia? Norway, Sweden, and Finland. Look at, okay, another task. Geography. Read about Scandinavia. For any welfare measure, this is taken as a gold standard. Why Scandinavian countries are rich? One reason is high tax, low population. Like they're happy, not rich. My question, I'll reframe my statement. The welfare measures are good there. For the local population, even though they pay tax as high as 35 to 40%, they're happy paying those taxes because the state is giving something back. In many European countries, you will notice that, especially in the rural background, women produce something and a collective of women come together, let's say in the form of a cooperative. The government procures from those local collectives. Local procurement. So let's say there is a panchayat level government body which wants to cook food for a school, government school. That local procurement will also happen from a vegetable seller or a vendor or a shop which is collectively owned by the community of that region. So they will get benefit in two ways. One, they are getting money because the government is paying for the produce, and two, the same produce is again reinvested and the money is going to them only in the form of food. So in a way, they're getting paid to get access to good nutrition. Maybe we can explore some ideas like this also. So finally, there are many aspects of nutrition sensitive budgeting. So in the entire supply chain of food, there are many areas where you need to spend money on for production, procurement, distribution, etc., etc. Say for example, food input will cost something. Even there, where will the money go? Let's say for example, are we giving enough money for female agricultural laborers or empowering the farmers who are women? That's one issue. Are we giving social protection for producers of food? Are we giving maternity benefits if something is, something is wrong, as in women lose their wage if they are in an informal sector due to pregnancy break or something? Are they getting enough time to rest, or they're forced to go back to work? Maternity benefits. Then this wash means water sanitation related scheme. There is a previous year question on this also, which will be dealing in sanitation as an aspect. Separate issue. An elaborate discussion will happen there. So, are we having access to clean and sanitized places where communicable diseases can be avoided? If you're eating contaminated food, that will also cause problem. Are we allocating enough budget for clean areas for this aspect of sanitation? Because sanitation is linked to your health. Are we focusing enough on women livelihood? So nutrition, if you want to address, the budget should be allocated in all these areas. Collectively, only then it will lead to an outcome. So remember, the point of this whole discussion is it can start with a bias, but it will have an implication in almost every walk of your life. From womb to tomb, throughout the life cycle, there is a problem faced by different sections of the society, and all the more so for women. So it cannot be a one-point solution. It should be a convergence of all these issues to ensure that outcome is happening. That's why it is important to have a multidisciplinary approach. That is why you should write an answer which is multi-dimensional. You must have heard this word, right? This suggestion. You have to write multi-dimensional answer. Why should I write? This is the reason. Because if you don't understand all the dimensions of the problem, outcomes are always ineffective. These are the statistics that you can take a look. Okay. So this second article is an extension of what we have been covering over a period of time about India's security doctrine. I am not going to elaborate this in detail because right from Suhasini Haidar's article somewhere in May, in the beginning of May, where she's said that we have to move away from episodic responses to a doctrinal response. So there needs to be a paradigm shift in how we approach this issue. And this article says the same point as to how India's national security is evolving from a reaction to a strategic, structured response. To support and corroborate this fact, they are using some examples as to how the issue kept on evolving, the doctrine kept on evolving based on three responses for terror attacks. First is the Uri, then you have the Balakot incident, and now the Operation Sindoor. At each level, you will notice the measures taken are escalated in a very structured manner. What happened in Uri? We directly went and performed surgical strikes. Then we followed it up with air strikes without troop mobilization. We did not mobilize troops and put it on the border, and we did not declare a full-blown war. Just like how Operation Sindoor was being carried out, we went till the border, we used our fighter jets and attacked their terror camps. This time, we went to the border and not just attacked the border terror camps, but also we tried to target 9 to 10 different locations where the infrastructure of the terrorists has been dismantled, and we were ready to escalate it to next level if measures were not taken by Pakistan. So here there is one more element, one more facet, that is international diplomacy. We did not shy away from saying that Pakistan is a state sponsor of terrorism. So there is this military attack, or a military defense, I would rather say that, coupled with a diplomatic engagement with many international stakeholders to advocate against Pakistan's sponsorship of terrorism. So these are the various levels and how we are expanding our tools to conduct our foreign policy, to safeguard the sovereignty of this nation. Clear? So in this article, we'll be looking and revisiting the same points in a much more faster way. I'm not going to elaborate in much detail because you already know these points. You know the Pahalgam, whatever happened. Okay. So this article says that we have to move towards a new normal. From now on, it cannot be anything other than how we are going to deal in this operation. Like whatever points that are discussed here, it cannot be anything other than this. So tech enabled defense. What do you mean by this? We have an air surveillance, we have an air defense, a complete grid like technology which safeguards us. We cannot go back from that because we have seen the importance of having such security measures. Diplomatic messaging. This should continue. There should be a rapid outreach. Today we have in foreign services very less professionals. So we probably have to increase the number of diplomats and constantly engage with multiple stakeholders to build that sphere of influence. Third, you need to have a framework or a policy approach on how to escalate tension. Escalate tension means, let's say if there is an attack, you directly don't go and declare a war. You need to have a structured, measured response. First you will, retaliate. First safeguard, retaliate. Then how we have done in Operation Sindoor in a very structured way, we do not escalate directly because we are not a war waging country. We are only defending ourselves. So that escalation management framework should be a part of our security doctrine. And finally, it is important to control the narrative. If you take a look at how Pakistan is projecting itself, it is projecting as if it's the victim here and we are the aggressor. We need to control that false information in international media, and there should be a specific mechanism to control that. We need to have an official spokesperson from the Ministry of External Affairs, Defense, etc. Just like how our for example Colonel Qureshi, Sophia Qureshi, there are other women, two women officers, they briefed the media as a gesture or as a symbolism of what this country stands for. A Muslim officer and a Hindu officer can sit together and address the nation on how they defended this country is a symbolism and a message to the world of what values that we stand for. Right? So that narrative control is important. So what are the principles that we need to safeguard? We've been talking about this. Sovereignty. Don't have to explain it, right? Deterrence. We are only defending ourselves. So the weapons and the strategies should aim to deter, not to attack. Strategic restraint. Because if we react, there is a chance that the enemy can use it against us. Wherever it is possible, you have to maintain that restraint because it will have a diplomatic fallout. Next is, we are doing everything under the threat of nuclear weapon. We have to manage and ensure that escalation does not go till the use of nuclear weapons, because once we use that, there is no point of return. Both the sides will be affected equally. So what do we want? The same things. We mentioned the problems. The solution will be, we want a much more predictive deterrence. So you know what will happen if something gets triggered. You need to have a predictive architecture for our response. Network centric warfare, meaning we can see, these are the keywords that you need to use in your answers. Predictive deterrence, network security, architecture. You can write it down. Conventional capability and diplomatic capital. 4 keywords to communicate what is it that you have to do. Conventional capability here, it says that raise the cost of proxy war without crossing the nuclear threshold. What does it mean? See, there are state actors, non-state actors. Non-state actors is also a part of your syllabus in GS3. Non-state actor means, let's say, terrorist. State actors means directly Pakistan government declaring a war. That's a state action. Non-state actors are infiltrators, terrorists, anti-social elements who are not a part of the government but attacking our sovereignty. So we should make it difficult for the non-state actors or the proxy war where the state is sponsoring terrorism and that is escalating tensions. State sponsored terrorism should become difficult. We have to have measures for that, and it should not become a situation where they're feeling like using nuclear weapons. We have to prepare for that eventuality also. That is what you mean by improving our conventional capability to raise the cost of proxy war. And diplomatic capital, we have already discussed. We have to increase our diplomatic outreach to control the narratives. So this is what you have to do. These are the requirements of a security doctrine. These key phrases will help you communicate your answer in a much better way. Here you can link it to international ethics, GS4. International ethics is a part of the syllabus, right? So this is how you can talk about it. Proportionality, leadership, and just war doctrine. It's a symbolism that we are just ethical. So what are the things that you have to take away? This can act as a case study. Okay? More or less, this is what you have to focus on from today's articles. I'm not elaborating on this because we have had enough discussion on these points in previous classes. So till now, after 15 days of newspaper analysis, you have understood governance, nuclear security, science and technology, inclusive growth, the frameworks to address R&D, all these issues. You now know the approach for a wide variety of topics in the syllabus. So in the future, any article comes up, it will become easier for you to deal with. These are the major themes of first half of May. Right? Now, if you revise and look at this as a problem and a solution orientation, that orientation will stick with you for next 1 year, and that is how you have to make use of newspapers. Clear? What is the takeaway after 15 days of newspaper classes? You now have a clear framework of how to approach the syllabus. And this is what you should be focusing on. Keyword based presentation, need presentation, factual based presentation. We are learning the skill of writing answers. We are not here for information. First learn the skill and then search for knowledge to present that skill. Skill is what is needed more than knowledge. Clear? See you tomorrow.